Yo, what is going on, everybody? My name is Dominic. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over what I watched in the month of November. Now, obviously, if you guys know, I tried to do these every single month. I got caught up in a lot of stuff and I wasn't able to do this right at the beginning of December or end of November. It's almost the end of December now and I'm finally getting around to doing this. So I hope you guys don't mind the small little wait that we had to go through, but I guess without further ado, let's just get right into it now. Alright, so I started off the month here by watching Edward Yang's Terrorizers. This is the first Edward Yang film since I watched A Brighter Summer Day for the first time, which was my first of his movies. I've also been wanting to see Yi Yi for the longest time. I think I'm going to absolutely love it, but I haven't got around to that one yet. But however, Terrorizers was absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved this movie. It's really a movie about sort of just like empty spaces, as I said in my review, just empty people, emptiness. It's just a movie that's so quiet and it's empty. It feels like so lifeless, but in like the best way possible. He's already becoming one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. I love the way he deals with people and sort of relationships. They all feel so authentic and done in a way, and like kind of depression and loneliness in such a way that feels so realistic and like it's from someone who's actually dealt with this kind of stuff. So in that way, it feels really authentic and tasteful. They're all just small kind of slice of life movies that just feel real, and I absolutely love that about his movies. And he has great visual style, amazing characters, beautifully written stories. I mean, everything about them, they're just super well-rounded. Absolutely loved this film. Alright, next up I watched Rebels of the Neon God by, I don't even want to try and pronounce his name because I'm going to absolutely butcher it, but I'll put it on screen. Pretty famous director that I know quite a few people have heard of, and I wanted to get into his films. This is the one that I don't even remember if anyone recommended this to me as the first one to watch from him, but regardless, I watched Rebels of the Neon God. I really enjoyed it on first watch for sure, but over time, over like the month or month and a half since I've seen the film, I've grown to love this movie so much. One of my favorite movies of all time. It's just another one that, similar to Edward Yang's films, deals with characters and just has beautiful writing and feels so authentic and realistic in such a way that it really relates to me and it hits home. And those kind of films are absolutely fantastic, and I don't really know how to articulate how much I love this film aside from that fact that the characters are just so incredibly well done and well written, because that is just the big thing in this movie, on top of having a great visual style and just having really methodical pacing. I'm really loving these Taiwanese directors. Next up I watched An Autumn Afternoon. I was on a crazy Asian cinema high at this point in the month, and so I'm like, hey, why not try some more Yasujiro Ozu? And this one was not as good. It is a pretty good film, decent movie, but pretty boring. And I do enjoy obviously Ozu's visual style and kind of the familiar themes he deals with family, relationships, generational gaps, that sort of stuff. But other than that, other than his trademarks, this was one of the stories I was the least interested in and the most bored by in a lot of points. But definitely still something that I'm excited to kind of keep going into Ozu's filmography. Next up, I rewatched The Grand Budapest Hotel in preparation for The French Dispatch, and this time around I absolutely loved it again. It is up there in my top 40 films of all time, I believe. I just absolutely love everything about this movie. I forgot how fast the pacing is in this movie, but it works so well to perfection. Ralph Fiennes is fantastic. Tony Revolori is amazing. Everyone is just really good. The colors are some of the best of all time in my opinion in this film. Has a great story, has a great heart, emotional core, and that ending comes around. You don't really realize how emotionally potent the rest of the story was, but then it kind of all hits you at once, and similar to like Spirited Away, that ending kind of ties the whole movie together. Then I watched The French Dispatch in theaters, and I'm glad to say that this did not disappoint. This is, I believe, in my top 4 or 5 Wes Anderson movies. I absolutely loved it. The visuals are absolutely stunning, on point. I loved these sort of separated stories. I loved all the performances. It was so funny, a lot of fun, and a great first Wes Anderson film to see in theaters. I just absolutely loved everything about this. Then I decided I wanted to rewatch Rushmore, and this actually moved up to my second favorite Wes Anderson film of all time, and now it is just one of my favorite movies ever made. I just absolutely love everything about this movie. It is so quirky and the writing is fantastic. The characters are amazing. Max Fisher is weirdly relatable in a couple of ways. Not in every way, because I feel like I'm not as... I don't know what the quality is specifically about him, but I feel like in a way I'm like him and I can kind of put myself in his shoes, but at the same time I'm not really like him at all. But yeah, this movie just really resonates with me more than anything else, because at this point Wes had a decently distinct visual style, but it wasn't like in your face and with crazy colors and stuff like that he does now. It was more kind of subdued, and he relied more on his amazing writing and character building skills, and that is what really hits home for me in this film. Then I watched the 1989 Batman film, and I really don't have too much to say about this movie other than I enjoyed it quite a decent bit. Jack Nicholson proves himself to be a fantastic actor once again. I liked Michael Keaton's Batman. I love Tim Burton's gothic set design for Gotham City, but other than that, it's a decently forgettable movie, but still one that I had a lot of fun with. Then I decided to rewatch Do the Right Thing. This film is absolute masterpiece. I've talked about it countless times, and I might make a own individual video for it, but this thing is just absolutely perfect. Then I decided to rewatch Playtime, this time with my grandparents who had never seen it before, and they're big fans of foreign cinema and French cinema, and so I decided to show this to them. They absolutely loved this movie, and it made me so happy to see that they liked it so much. And obviously for me, it's infinitely rewatchable, and I just really just love everything about this. Hilarious, beautiful visuals, and just super touching, and just means so much to me. And I watched Taylor Swift's short film All Too Well. I really don't have much to say about it. It was a pretty decent short film, to be completely honest with you. And I decided to watch Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings to kind of sort of catch up on Marvel movies a little bit. This one was a little bit disappointing given a lot of the praise it's been getting. It was decently fun for the most part, but a lot of it felt really bland and uninspired and not really my thing, unfortunately, but still a fairly decent Marvel movie. Definitely not one of their bad films in that catalog. And I decided to watch City of God. This is one of the most unique films I've ever seen. It is incredibly well written. The characters here are absolutely phenomenal, and I loved a lot of the visual and editing choices that they had in this movie. It gave it a really raw and like aggressive feeling, and the whole kind of vibe that this film gave me was really, really unmatched by almost anything I've ever seen. It gave off such a kind of harsh energy in the best way possible. I really, really enjoyed how this film made me feel, and it was really anxiety inducing and kind of depressing at times. And I mean, this was a really, really well done film. Highly recommend this if you haven't seen it yet. And I decided to watch Billy Wilder's The Apartment. This has been on my watch list for a while, and I absolutely adored this movie. Billy Wilder has some of the best script writing ability that I've ever seen, even from just one movie, and his dialogue is super quick and kind of keeps you on your toes. It's hilarious. It's super smart. And I just loved the dialogue in this movie above everything else, but the visuals were pretty good, and the story was so phenomenal and incredibly like intelligent, but also like just really immature at the same time in a certain way. But a lot of it just felt like so well done, and above all else, I was super invested into this story and this main character and the relationship that he wants to be in. I just absolutely love this movie so much. Then I finally got around to watching Schindler's List. I don't really know how to describe my thoughts for this movie. It feels weird saying that I wasn't as depressed as I thought I was going to be, but a lot of it was incredibly well done. And I decided to watch a quick short film called Symphony of Slang. Really funny stuff. I love the puns in this. Just great stuff. Then I watched Jean-Luc Godard's Alphaville, and this is up there with some of my favorites of his. I absolutely loved the sort of set design and the lighting that he incorporated in this movie to kind of make it feel like a foreign planet, even though he was not really able to have any extravagant set design. He just used what he had and just made it feel like super alienating. I loved the main characters and the story kind of surrounding this film. The main performances were fantastic. The only thing that's holding this back from me absolutely loving this movie was that super weird, like, raspy voice that always was saying this, like, voiceover stuff.
Qu'est-ce que vous aimez par-dessus tout?
Every, like, 10 minutes. It was so annoying. Like, I wouldn't have minded it if it was just a normal voice, but the raspiness, it was just so gross. But the actual movie itself was so fantastic. Then I decided to watch Edgar Wright's newest film, Last Night in Soho, and it was quite a big disappointment. This was arguably, I'd say probably top 2 or 3 most anticipated films of the year for me. I made a whole video on why this could potentially be the best movie of the year, and unfortunately I was let down quite a bit. Had some interesting visuals, some decent lighting choices, great performance by Anya Taylor-Joy, but at the end of the day, the writing was just not there for me. It was too kind of messy, too unsure of itself, and it kind of contradicted itself, and the messaging was off. The themes didn't feel like they were tackled in a way that was very well done in any way. I just was not a big fan of this movie, but definitely not my least favorite because Scott Pilgrim, I still hate that movie. Then I decided to rewatch Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal with a Criterion commentary track over the film, and it made me appreciate the film a little bit more for sure, but I don't really love these black and white Ingmar Bergman films because his kind of direction style paired with no color gives a really cold and lifeless feeling to his movies, that even though this is really well written and tackles some really important themes that I think are just super interesting and especially well done in this film with some amazing performances and all that sort of stuff, I just couldn't help but not get super invested into it or just not feel what I think I needed to feel because of his sort of direction style paired with the lifeless black and white feeling. It's definitely different depending on the director and the kind of story that a black and white cinematography film tells, but this just overall gave a pretty like heartless feeling to the whole thing. It didn't really feel like it had that heart, that emotional core that I really appreciate in a movie, but I still think this is a well done film that I enjoy. And I decided to watch one of the most acclaimed films of 2021, Titane, I believe is how you pronounce it, and another one that I was not a big fan of, mostly just because I'm not a big fan of body horror. Doesn't sit well with me, and that's basically all you really need to know. This movie might be really well made, really well done, but I just couldn't get into it at all because of that aspect. And I watched Jean-Luc Godard's Le Petit Soldat because I hadn't seen this when it was one of his earliest works. It was really impressive for being one of his early films, and I really enjoyed it. It was pretty disturbing at times, and I understand why it was banned for a few years, but yeah, a lot of it was really interesting. Dealing with kind of the morality of war and like torture methods, and other than that, it was just really interesting to see the main kind of relationships, and I just love Jean-Luc Godard's style and kind of dialogues here, so obviously I was gonna actually just enjoy this a little bit. And I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife in theaters. Not too much to say, just a really, really fun time that, you know, pays a tasteful homage to the original films, while not feeling like it's just trying to bank off of the name. I thought it was a really enjoyable movie. Then I decided to watch Miami Vice, which is possibly the coolest film of all time. This was just so entertaining. I loved Michael Mann's style in this movie. The main performances were great. It was just such an infectious film that I could not stop watching. It was really, really cool, really well done. I cannot wait to rewatch this and kind of see more details about the themes and the story that maybe I missed on first watch. Then I decided to watch Goodbye Dragon Inn for the first time by the same director who made Rebels of the Neon God, because I loved that movie so much, and this was just absolutely fantastic. I like this one more on first watch than I did Rebels of the Neon God, but as they've aged with me a little bit, I prefer the other one more than this, but this still is such a potent experience. made me cry. I mean, this film was so hard-hitting. Incredible film. Super slow moving, barely anything happens. But if that kind of thing hits with you and you kind of can feel that and resonate with it, this film will hit hard. And I decided to rewatch the original Ghostbusters after watching the new one a few days back in theaters, and it was just so fantastic. I mean, this is just one of the most fun, entertaining films of all time, and that's all you really need to know. It's not exactly well made, other than the incredible writing, but it's just so much fun and one of the most like pure fun movies of all time. Then I decided to rewatch Dune because why the hell not? And I still absolutely love this movie. Pretty easily my favorite film of the year. Super rewatchable. And I decided to watch another film with my grandparents. They recommended one to me this time. It is called Purple Noon, starring Alain Delon. He is so fantastic in this movie. He was very young in this film. They actually made a remake of it, American remake called, I believe it's called The Talented Mr. Ripley, and I haven't seen that film, but I might based off of this one. It was a little long and a little slow at times, but when there was something interesting going on, it was super interesting, entertaining, investing, super well written, great sort of atmosphere and visual style as well. It was a super interesting film that I was not expecting to like as much as I did. Then I decided to rewatch Ghostbusters Afterlife in theaters again with my aunt, uncle, grandma, and cousin, and they all really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it still. Not much to say, just again, really fun movie. Then finally I decided to rewatch Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi film, and this time around I really enjoyed it. Obviously I have nostalgia for this movie, but on top of that, I just think it's the best made. Like, I don't know if it's the best out of the Raimi trilogy, but it tackles a lot of really important themes, or at least more substantial themes than the first two in my opinion, and a lot of the stuff is just way more well done, I think, than the other two, and it also just fully embraces the fact that it's so crazy and stupid and that it's kind of a comedy, and I think just fully embracing that and just going with it, it definitely helps in kind of dealing with a lot of the campiness, because you feel like that's kind of just part of the experience. But again, as I said, I genuinely think a lot of the elements of this film are just more well done than the first two films in this trilogy. So I think this is one of the better live action Spider-Man films, so sue me. And that is going to do it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, definitely make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe down below, and let me know down in the comments section what kind of videos you want to see next from me. I'll be sure to make sure I get those videos out for you guys. Right now, I'm currently working on a video about Melodrama, my favorite album, and I'm also going to be ranking all of the 1960s Jean-Luc Godard movies, because I'm only like 3 films away from that, I believe, so that video will definitely be coming soon. And also what I watched in December should be coming soon, because it's the end of December. So yeah, again, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.